Resume recording. Alrighty. Again, welcome to anybody that joins, and let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be talking about inner alchemy. And this is a transformation process. Basically, we're going to understand the ego, we're going to find the ego, and then we're going to transform it into something that you can actually use in your life, which is positivity. Okay. So in this journey of self-discovery and personal growth, it is crucial to remember that the key to success lies in your mind. Our minds have dual sides, and understanding both left and right sides is essential for growth. So that's exactly where we're going to go ahead and start. Okay, the dual mind. We have a right side. The right side of your brain is where big picture thinking, intuition, and inner peace reside. It understands connectivity and oneness. It's where our soul energy exists. Children are a great example of living on the right side of the mind. They're always happy. They're always moving to the next thing. But notice, they don't carry the same weight as a teenager or an adult. They're very light. They just kind of go to the next thing. Therefore, they're not really having experiences that they're retaining. They're just having experiences and moving through the flow. The left side of the brain, on the other hand, houses language, numbers, patterns, and linear thought processes. It's our means of communicating and interacting with the external world, interpreting language and numbers to perform functions. Both sides of the brains work together, when the right side generating frequency and harmony, while the left side interprets them to generate vibration and action. So one side is going to create the frequency and the thoughts and the harmony of it all. And the other side is going to generate the vibration and the action so you can have an experience. A healthy human being uses both sides of their brain, living in a world of illusion while knowing that they are connected and one with all. All right. Your mind's right side fuels creativity, while your left side governs rational thinking. Your right mind is pure imagination, which is like saying it's a white light, like the sun. If a bright light is shown into someone's eyes, they may not be able to see their surrounding clearly. This is exactly what we do when our left mind or our ego. And I wanted to show this in an image so that you can see. This right here is a candle, if you can't see it very clearly. And that's kind of the whole point, is that if you are a candle in front of the sun, you can't see your flame. You can't see your light very clearly, okay? It is as if you are a candle standing in front of the sun. If the sun does not lower its radiance, you will never see nor know if you're a bright light. The right mind must lower its opacity, or it'll constantly outshine the rational side of your thoughts. Okay. To find a balance, just like dimming the bright light, your right mind must lower its opacity, allowing the rational side to be seen. When these two sides work together harmoniously, you can see the world more clearly, just as your eyes readjust after the light is dimmed. Kindness is the most powerful energy in the universe because it brings harmonious balance between the two sides. When you approach situations with kindness, you're more likely to find an equilibrium or a middle place where creativity and rational thinking coexist, leading to a better decision and a more profound understanding of yourself and the world around you. So by embracing kindness, you can tap into the true potential of your mind's duality. And those of you that are on 9vibes know, when it comes to kindness, this is the most important thing that I teach. I teach love and I teach trust and I teach compassion, but kindness relies on both sides to be in agreement that it's kind. I cannot give someone a sandwich if what they need is rent and consider that kind if it's not giving them what they're actually asking for. Okay, just if I'm standing on a sign asking for rent and you give me a sandwich, I'm not going to perceive it the same. Okay. Slight thing. Okay, so what I wanted to show you guys is, and those of you that took the Fibonacci class, is going to be really awesome because we took this class. I showed you guys basically that there are 60 digits. They're the Fibonacci numbers basically repeat till forever. But if you end up cutting it down, you can repeat it every 60 digits. And the reason you can do that is because if you take the last digit of the Fibonacci number, you end up with 60 digits that repeat to infinity. Okay, so what we did is we put this on the shape, as you can see here. Now, this is a 3, 4, 5 triangle. This is a prism. And most people look at prisms in this way, but what you actually can do is you could turn it on its side, and what you end up with is 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles on these sides. Now, remember the math behind that, right? We know that from this 5 to this 0 is 51.84 degrees in terms of an angle. So if we take 51.84 times 60 times 60, because we have two of those, we get the speed of light. Okay, so just a really cool way to kind of show you why I was teaching you the 3-4-5 triangle and how it directly correlates to a prism, because when you shine a white light through a prism, you get your 7 colors. Okay, so imagine your mind is a prism with the white light from your right brain passing through it. Now you can call this the arc if you're talking about the Bible, or you can just call it a prism if you want to, resulting in the 7 vibrant colors on the left side. However, if your logical mind is unfamiliar with these colors or these frequencies, in other words, if you have not put in the effort to learn about harmony and frequencies and alignments and colors, if you have not learned about your surroundings and your environment, it struggles to grasp the significance. Who cares about 7 colors? It has no value. But if you know about your 7 chakras, well, now it has value. Okay, but here's the fascinating part. When your right mind shows kindness by dimming its bright light, it opens a pathway to understanding and awareness for the left mind. Okay, and I'm going to show you an image of what that looks like. Okay, this side of your mind is all this white light. It's all the God in you. It's all the oneness. It's the clarity and the understanding of everything. This is the side your body listens to. Okay, it doesn't listen to this side. Notice the more you get on this side, the less you want to eat. The less that you want to do things that basically pull your energy or take from your energy. That's all from your left side. So the problem is that your left side has no awareness of where it came from and who it is or anything along those lines, because it's being outshined. This white light is going through and it's blinding this side. Now, if you go back and you read the Bible, and you guys know this, I mention the Bible quite often, not as something that is religious, but as something you can kind of just pick things from. There are many books that I could do this with, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, if you want to, but it's the same exact concept. It's the understanding that when it's talking about the blind now seeing, it's not talking about eyes. It's not talking about everybody in the Bible was not blind and then all of a sudden became, was able to see. It's the understanding that everybody has their left side. Everybody has a left side that is blind. It's being blinded out by your journey of enlightenment. This is one of the reasons why I say that personal enlightenment, solo enlightenment is a misnomer. The person that you strive to enlighten will always get in your way because it's already enlightened. So it's just this trap that you keep going around and around and around. Know that you are enlightened and you'll be enlightened. Search for enlightenment and you'll distract yourself from it. Okay, so the white light comes through the prism, as you can see here, and it gives you the 7 colors. Now, the first thing I want you guys to see, of course, is going to be your 7 chakra frequencies. And yes, I'm aware there's only 6. There's an indigo in here. It just wasn't there. But this is going to reveal to you the first 7: root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus chakra, heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye chakra, and crown. And each one of these has a frequency. Each one of these has a color. Okay. Now, if you go back to what Nikola Tesla said, and again, if you guys are not okay with Nikola Tesla saying it, put any name you want at the end of this. I don't think Tesla will be offended. But the understanding is that if you were to add up the digital root of each one of these, you end up with 936, 936, 936, giving you the understanding. If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you'd have a key to the universe. All right. Okay. Remember that the totality of the whole will always be more valuable than the parts that make it whole. Okay, one more time. Remember that the totality of the whole will always be more valuable than the parts that make it whole. The internet is far more productive with an observer and a user. Your mind is far more expansive when you use your left and your right together. That's the message, and that's the understanding of that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about data, knowledge, and wisdom. In other words, what is going inside of our mind? This is what is inside of your mind: data, knowledge, and wisdom. So first, data is the raw information and signals that are all around us. Data refers to unprocessed piece of information or stimuli that exists in our environment. It represents the basic building blocks of knowledge collected from various sources like observations, measurements, or external inputs. In its raw form, data may not have any inherent meaning or context whatsoever, but when organized, analyzed, and most importantly, applied, it can be transformed into valuable insights and understanding. All right. Knowledge is the successful application of that information through experience. A lot of people confuse data with knowledge. Reading a book is not knowledge. Finding something online that blows your mind is not knowledge. Knowledge is only gathered through successful application of that information. Okay. Knowledge is the understanding gained when raw data is processed, analyzed, and applied in real life situations through personal experience. That's why every single person can be wise and every single person can be very, very knowledge filled if they're applying it to their life. If not, then they're very data filled. Okay. It involves taking the basic pieces of information and using them to make informed decisions or solve problems. As we encounter different experiences and learn from them, we develop a deeper comprehension of the subject matter, transforming the raw data into meaningful and useful knowledge. All right. Now, wisdom's a little bit different. Wisdom, on the other hand, is the collective knowledge gained from multiple experiences. Now, these can be your personal experiences, or these could be the experiences of those in your life. You can absolutely learn from people. You do not have to walk the same exact steps as other people to learn the lesson. You can take parts of it, apply it to your life, and be like, yep, okay, I can clearly see that was not the way I wanted to go. Or, yes, I do want to follow that path. Wisdom is the insightful understanding that emerges from the accumulation and integration of knowledge acquired through multiple experiences over time. It is the ability to discern what is truly important, make sound judgments, and apply the learned knowledge in various contexts and situations. Wisdom transcends mere knowledge by incorporating energy, intelligence, empathy, and a broader perspective, enabling us to navigate complex situations effectively and with a deeper sense of compassion and awareness. Wisdom in completion will lead you to understand that what everyone truly desires is to have what they need in any given moment, not to have what they want at any given time. All right. Visualize this concept with the example of a book in a dark room. The book contains stories and lessons, but without light, you cannot access them. Light reveals the data around us, allowing us the opportunity to gain knowledge and wisdom. You are the light. In a world where information is constantly thrown at us, it's important to discern between data and knowledge. By applying information and data to our own lives and learning from the experiences of others, we can build wisdom and continue our journey towards self-awareness and personal growth. Okay. So again, I go back to, and I know that everybody knows this experience where you get on almost a high of data, more data and more data and more data, and you're not applying it. And that's one of the biggest reasons why it is that fear appears in our lives, is because of the fact that you have too much information and not enough experience, versus the other side where you'd have too much experience and not enough information, which is what led you to read a book in the first place. Okay. So it needs to oscillate and it needs to balance. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the ego. One of my favorite things to talk about, because of the fact that when I first learned about the ego, I thought it was the enemy and the problem. Then I thought it was its own energy that was running everything in my life. And now I understand that it is the soul. The ego is a lost soul. And most importantly, it's your lost soul. Okay, ego, it's not an entity, it's energy. Understanding the ego, it is important to understand that the ego is not an enemy. Okay, so I said entity at first. Now we're talking about enemy. It is not the enemy, but rather energy created when left in the brain, when literally left in the left brain too long. Essentially, the ego is your soul with fear, which often leads to chaotic feelings and experiences. The ego hides in the chaos and fear of your left brain. And throughout this training, we'll not only find the ego in your life, but you'll also learn methods for understanding and transforming your ego into usable energy. All right, so to understand this, I have this example. Think of your ego as a lost part of your soul. Your ego represents a part of yourself that you may have left behind in your journey to improve your life. Imagine climbers on Everest connected together as they climb. Sometimes in those climbing movies, something traumatic happens, and the only way to save the entire team is to cut the rope that links them. Now picture each climber as a part of your soul. Your soul is like the climber's team. It's the collective part. It cares for each part of itself. In a challenging situation, your soul would never choose to cut the rope from above because it values every aspect of who you truly are. Instead, it might sacrifice itself or make the sacrificial decision and detach itself from the rest, cutting its own rope. Similarly, your ego may have developed as a result of part of your soul being left behind for too long. It could be an aspect of yourself that needs acknowledgement and integration to truly align with your overall well-being. Okay, and I'll be talking about this a little bit as we continue discussing this. Okay, so to understand this a little bit better, we often go through moments of self-discovery when we transition from being kids to embracing new phases in life. You might have heard people say, or your own kids say, I'm not a kid anymore, right? It's a clear distinction between a kid and a teenager. Don't call me a kid anymore. During these transitions, we create a healthy divide to perceive ourselves as something different from the past. We do this all the time. It allows us to have a new experience and to grow in that experience. However, problems arise when we start denouncing and insulting ourselves, causing emotional trauma. So in other words, it is okay to say, I'm not a kid anymore. It is not okay to say, oh, kids are stupid. Kids do these things, to insult it, to add a negative vibe to it. That's what ends up causing the divide and the trauma that's in your life. Okay. The key to understanding the ego is to embrace change and growth while being kind to ourselves. Accepting who we were in the past allows us to evolve without losing our sense of identity. By recognizing the lessons and experiences from our younger selves, we build a more holistic and compassionate understanding of who we are today. Okay. A lot of people that I meet with don't want to look back at their younger selves. They made mistakes. They hurt people. They've got a whole entire train of just trauma that goes behind them. And I used to be one of those people. And so I completely understand that. But I also understand that part of understanding the ego is part of understanding that that just made you who you are. And if today is the day that you decide you want to be a better person, well, then today is the best version of yourself you can be. All right. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move into the hide and seek with the ego. We're going to find where your ego hides. A lot of people don't know that your ego is not just found in negative experiences. They can be confused with other things. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we're going to do hide and seek with the ego. In order to understand the ego, we first need to find it. So we're going to start with fear. The ego resides in the realm of fear. And it's important to realize that your soul, along with fear, gives rise to the ego. So in other words, your soul adding on fear is going to create an ego. In the early stages of life and awakening, three primary fears emerge: fear of the dark, fear of your creator, and fear of non-existence. And the reason that it says early stages of your life and awakening is because most children are afraid of the dark. In fact, Caitlin's little sister is going through this right now. We have to make monster spray so that she understands, you know. And so they have the fear of the dark. And then as you grow up, you become fear of your creator. You don't know who God is. You haven't established your own relationship. And so everything around you in your environment tells you to fear it. Have you ever heard someone say, I'm a fear-loving God or anything like that? It's always adding fear to that understanding. So the first place that we want to work through when we are going through our own awakening is the fear of whatever we believe created us. And then you have the fear of non-existence. The ego's greatest fear is to cease existing. Okay. And that's the key to this whole entire process. If you can figure out a way to understand the ego, you can figure out a way to give it what it actually wants. And if you can give it what it actually wants in a way that works with your life, your whole entire life will change to a much happier, much more aligned process. Okay. So the greatest fear of the ego is to cease existing, while the soul knows that non-existence is an impossibility. In other words, it's not possible not to exist. It's impossible not to exist, but the ego does not know that. And therefore it establishes bonds and it establishes anchors so that it will not exist. Okay. If the two are not in communication, if your soul and your ego are not in communication with each other, then the ego goes on fearing and the soul goes on not understanding why the ego fears. And that leads to chaos. Okay, so fear. To gain a deeper understanding of your fears, take a moment to jot down all of the things in your life. You don't have to do this now. As I said, this is a PDF that you guys will have access to, so you can go through your own journey. Okay, but this is just describing this. So jot down all the things in your life that have induced fear within you, whether they stem from childhood, fear of death, or fear of failure. Once you have them written down, examine these fears and ask yourself if they are rational, irrational, locational, or realistic in nature. Okay, so basically what you're doing is you're starting to take inventory of your fears. If you live in the middle of the desert, it really doesn't do you any good to fear sharks. Okay, so it's kind of that understanding of you want to go through your fears and you want to put them in categories. Look at them for the first time. Reflect on how these fears may have influenced your life choices, as they have potential to act as obstacles to your progress. By exploring and acknowledging these fears, you can move towards your path of greater understanding and growth. Okay. Now, each one of these is going to have questions that you can ask yourself so that you can start finding where your fears are. So number one, what specific fear am I experiencing and what are its root causes? Number two, how has this fear impacted my life so far and what opportunities or experiences have I missed because of it? Number three, what steps can I take to gradually confront and overcome this fear? How can I start building my courage and resilience to face it? Remember, self-reflection and understanding are essential to addressing fears. Being kind to yourself throughout this process is a key to personal growth and healing within. Okay, so that is the first place that your ego loves to hide. And I've done a whole post on this to understand this. Okay, it is the savior of your life. It is literally the creation of why you're here in the first place. Because if you had no ego whatsoever, you wouldn't be here. There would be no reason to be here at all. So it sets anchors. And so that's what you're working through. Okay. All right. The next one is going to be pride. And this is one that usually most people don't know about because we kind of look at pride as a positive thing in life. And here we're going to talk about it. There are key places that your ego hides, and one of them is pride. Pride stems from fear. It stems from insecurities and wanting approval. Things like skin color, personal choices, and abilities can often be sources of pride or insecurity. Pride does not allow someone to see their own flaws and causes people to reject logic. Pride is heavy, and it allows you to become stagnant or content rather than encouraging you to grow. Those of you that know about the chakra frequencies and know about the weight or the power of energy are going to notice the colors I am choosing for this. Fear is the heaviest that you can have. It is the opposite of love. Therefore, it is the heaviest that you can actually be, which is why it starts in the red and at the very beginning. As you move through what we'll call your Red Sea, you move into orange. Orange is also, when you look at the frequency, a very heavy frequency. It is a slow process. And so pride is something that we get stuck in very easily. Pride is heavy and allows you to become stagnant or content rather than encouraging you to grow. Every pride has an opposite. For example, pride in being tall can have the opposite of insecurity about being short. Pride in being smart means that you may truly fear that you are less intelligent than most. Pride in your spiritual life, right? Pride in your spirituality means that you aren't as secure as you may actually think that you are, or that you're showing that you are. Now, most people ask me at this point, well, if I can't have pride, what do I have? That's a great question. So the answer is going to be appreciation. Okay. Pride and appreciation are not the same thing. You can appreciate your intelligence, your spiritual path, and anything else in your life without turning it into pride. All right. Pride can manifest in various aspects of your life, such as accomplishments, looks, skills, race, intelligence, and experiences. However, it can prevent you from seeing your own flaws. Again, going back to that bright light, it outshines it. The ego uses alchemy to transform pride into character traits, which is a trick to convince your brain that being special is the ultimate goal. Being special is not the ultimate goal. We are all very much aware that we are all one underneath all of this. And so therefore, standing out is completely okay in appreciation, but not in pride. Okay. Social media fuels pride. Okay. This is a big problem at the very beginning. Social media fuels pride with actions like taking and posting selfies. Okay. I don't know about you guys. I have a 12-year-old niece who has 350 pictures a day on her phone of different angles, that she's just posting on stuff. So pride is the desire to be better, to be unique, and to be the best. However, when you believe that you are better than others or the best at something, the universe gives you what you believe, which is to isolate you. If you're going to believe that you're the best or that you are better than all, then you're going to live in an isolated experience. This allows you to experience that belief that you want to believe in your own arena. Okay. To overcome pride, identify your personal triggers for pride and remain humble. Realizing no one is perfect in all areas can help overcome excessive pride. To understand your ego, ask yourself these questions. Why do you desire to be better? It's a great question. And this is not an individual like, oh, okay, I have no pride in my life, so I'm good. There are multiple areas of our life that you can find pride in. And there are multiple areas that you can work through to be more aligned. So why do you desire to be better? Why do you desire to be special? Why do you desire to be anywhere but where you currently are right now? And you can reflect on these reactions, words, and awareness by asking questions like, are your responses and language reflecting pride or unity? Are you aware of which side your brain you're using from, your left or your right? By examining these aspects of your ego, you'll be better equipped to transform it into positive energy that you can use for your life. I do see somebody here who's having issues with sound. Pat or Caitlin? All right, so this brings us into my next favorite thing to talk about, which is going to be food complex. People don't realize that your ego doesn't just reside in your fear and your pride and the negative things. It's also in your choices that you make. So did you know that your relationship with food is intertwined with your ego? You see, all the food that we eat is essentially made up of different frequencies. When we taste these foods, our neural networks in the brain interpret these frequencies in various flavors. That's why we have different tastes and preferences. But why does our ego care about what we eat? Well, the ego seeks to set us apart from others. And one way to do that is to go through our food choices. It's like personal identifying the manager. I'm sorry. It's like a personal identity manager guiding our likes and our dislikes for things. Okay, so it's about our ego expressing our unique individuality through our food preferences. So next time you find yourself craving a particular dish or having a strong food preference, remember that it's not just about taste, but also about your ego wanting to showcase your differentness, your distinctiveness, okay? Embrace and enjoy the diverse and flavorful experiences that your ego leads you towards and also away from with the same exact balance. Okay. And a great example would be, I don't like peas. And I'm pretty sure that I don't like peas because my dad loved peas. So most of my life, I spent my time trying to be the opposite of my father, which is why I didn't like peas. And so we do this in our lives quite often. So take your own inventory and find out, where it works for you. What specific food preferences do I have? And can I trace their origins back to any influences or experiences in my life? Are there any instances where I judge others or myself based off of food preferences? And how does that contribute to my sense of identity and separation from others? And I added a joke here, pineapple pizza. I saw it going all over Facebook where people were literally like, you're the worst person in the world or the best person if you like pineapple on your pizza, right? It has nothing to do with it whatsoever. And so this is just a great experiment you can do with yourself. And have any food preferences changed over time? And if so, can I identify any external factors or internal shifts in my ego that may have contributed to these changes? So these are really awesome questions that you can ask yourself to kind of craft and see where your ego is hiding, not just in the negativity of your life. Okay, now we're going to talk about greed. Okay, so another place that your ego is going to hide is going to be greed. One second, I'm going to take a drink here. All right. So greed is another emotion that can be harmful. The greedier a person is, the more they desire to be special or seen. Are you noticing this? This is the reason that your ego is the leader of all these things. It just wants to be special. It wants to be seen. It wants to be noticed. The more you can actually vocalize that into something that you can hear, in other words, your ego is crying out kind of thing, the more you can go, okay, now I can actually help it. I can hear it. Okay. Greed can only exist in separation and creates the illusion that enough is never enough, setting you on a never-ending cycle of seeking more. This cycle could generate a fear of not having enough. And again, those of you that have taken my money class, you understand this message that not enoughness leads you then to believing that even something like God doesn't have enough, which leads to separation, which leads to you believing you need things in this world, when in reality, you need nothing. You need absolutely nothing. You can rise to a place where you don't need food. You can rise to a place where you don't even need air. Okay. I haven't mastered that, but I have read about how it is possible. And we create things all the time that replace things like air. So the understanding is that getting out of the not having enough is what is going to expand you to realize that there is absolutely enough for everyone, enough money, enough value, enough energy, enough love. All right. Reflect on whether you allowed greed to motivate you and consider 3 situations in your life where you were greedy. So again, these are just questions you can ask yourself. Analyze why you became greedy and what you could have done differently. Even in America, the poorest neighborhoods still have flat screen TVs, video game consoles, and cars out front. Okay. Greed distorts the current reality as if looking through a green lens that only shows lack. All day, every day, all you're seeing is lack. And that's what leads to the fear of not enoughness. And that's what leads to greed. The more you reveal moments or choices in your life that were influenced by greed, the more you can transform that energy into trust and appreciation. All right. So the questions you want to ask yourself, why do I constantly want more and feel like what I have is never enough? Do I prioritize material possessions and wealth over relationships and experiences? Do I struggle with envy or jealousy towards others who have more than me? I used to be one of those people to surf through Facebook and be like, why? Why can't I have this stuff? Do I make decisions based on how much money or possessions I can gain rather than what is morally right or ethical? Do I often feel a sense of entitlement or believe that I deserve more than what others have? And am I willing to sacrifice the well-being of others or the environment in order to achieve personal gain? Again, these are personal questions you can ask yourself. All right, so this is going to bring us into envy. Envy and jealousy is the next place that your ego hides. Envy is another powerful emotion that the ego loves because it promotes separation. It gets to say, I'm special. Envy can make you believe you lack something, leading to a constant journey of accumulation. You need more and more and more. This mindset often stems from fear. Fear that there isn't enough love, money, material possessions, healing resources, the list goes on. Identifying and addressing these fears can help you transform your ego into positive energy and move towards unity. People can be envious over a wide range of things, which is what makes envy so dangerous. To clear this energy, we must first find where our envy is hiding in our own personal lives. Ask yourself where envy exists in your life and who you find yourself comparing yourself to in your life. Okay, comparison is one of the biggest things where you will find envy. I am a Green Bay Packer fan. I compare myself to every football team that is out there. I see, Pat. I compare myself to every football team that is out there, but I do it in awareness. You know, I'm not cruel or anything, but if you're not aware, then yeah, it turns very, very quickly into envy. All right. Now, jealousy and envy often arise when we perceive others as having something better or lacking in ourselves, leading to feelings of inferiority and attack. All right. So that's where you're on the attack of things. The ego falsely convinces us that the difference is a personal affront. Okay. Have you ever noticed that? You make it personal. Okay. Giving rise to competition and negative comparisons. Jealousy reflects the ego's sense of separation rather than unity and can lead to erratic behaviors. So here's the bottom part. There is nothing wrong with desiring something. Okay. A little brother who desires to be like his big brother is absolutely okay. A little brother who wants to take from his big brother is not. So there is a difference between the two. There's nothing wrong with desiring something. It is only when it becomes envy or jealousy that it causes a problem in your life. Okay. So the questions you want to ask yourself to better understand your ego with envy, ask yourself these questions. Do you often compare yourself? I chose this specific picture because I couldn't find another picture that aligned with the color. It's the only reason. I have no problems with snakes whatsoever. Do you often compare yourself to others, particularly in terms of their possessions, achievements, or relationships? Have you ever felt resentful or bitter towards someone because of their success or good fortune? Do you find yourself wishing that you had what others have, even if it means they would lose it in the process? That's an important one. Have you ever made negative comments or gossip about someone who has something you desire in an attempt to diminish their own accomplishments? Do you feel a sense of dissatisfaction with your own life, even when you achieve your goals because you're constantly looking what others have? And number 6, are you more focused on competing with others and outperforming them rather than collaborating and celebrating their achievements? Okay. And this lies in everything. Those of you that are on 9vibes, came from 9vibes, know that I focus on kindness as the #1 foundation. But I will be first to tell you that it took me a while to understand that the closer that someone came to what I thought my level of awareness was, the more fearful I became that they were going to surpass me. Took me a while to be able to understand that it is absolutely okay and that it is a step process and we're all constantly moving. But that's where my ego was hiding out. All right, passion. Passion is another place that your ego hides. Passion is a strong, deep bond with someone or something that has two possible outcomes. It is either going to come out as obsession or it is going to come out as harmony. Obsession is logical, methodical, and fear-based, while harmony allows passion to be a tool for motivation. The more harmonious you are in your passion, the more you will excel at it. The more frustrated you are with your passion, the more you'll obsess over it. Recognizing the balance between harmony and obsession in our lives is crucial for healthy relationships and self-awareness. So it's going to bring you some questions you can ask yourself about passion. Do I feel like my passion consumes my thoughts and actions to the point where it negatively affects other aspects of my life? Am I willing to compromise my values or well-being in order to pursue my passions? Do I feel a constant sense of anxiety or pressure related to my passions? Does my passion bring me joy and fulfillment, or does it feel like an obligation or a burden? Do I feel like my passion is in alignment with my overall goals and values? And can I take breaks from my passion and engage in other activities without feeling guilty or anxious? FOMO is a real thing, right? Feeling like you're getting left out of something. Okay, so when you start noticing you can't step away from something you're doing, if I can't leave 9vibes for a day and it not fall apart, I did something wrong. Okay, so it's really important for you to balance your passions, because I'm very passionate about 9vibes. It's really important to balance your passions and to ask yourself these questions as you move through them. Passion can very, very quickly turn into obsession. Okay. All right, now this is going to bring us into lying. Okay. Lying is actually one of the biggest places that your ego hides. Lying is a behavior often driven by fear. So again, notice the correlation: fear, ego. Okay. So it is also driven by fear. As people try to conceal unpleasant truths, they end up depriving others of honesty. Okay. So in other words, you're not even sharing the honesty. To lie intentionally, one must first know the truth and then change it. And I want you guys to really focus on this sentence. To lie intentionally, one must first know the truth and then change it, leading to a merging of lies and personal truth over time. Consistent lying can even create alternative realities, entangling the liar in their own web of deception, which is why lies end up becoming your reality. Okay? Lying is a very important place that you want to take inventory of where you are at. Actions often reveal lies louder than words, with telltale signs like exaggerated stories, lack of eye contact, and shifty body language. Okay, so I'm showing you this because of the fact not to judge the liar, but if you can see it before it comes out, you can have compassion for it and decide what you're going to believe from that experience. Because remember, there is truth in all, but not all is truth. Every lie holds truth. You just have to find where it is. Okay, one of my favorite movies by Jim Carrey, and I specifically chose this one because those of you that online who have seen Jim Carrey is a big component for spirituality when it comes to at least the celebrity world. Talks a lot about your chakras and things like that. Okay, so those who resort to lies may unwillingly judge others as unworthy of the truth. They're basically saying, you don't deserve my truth. Okay, and this dishonesty can accumulate karmic consequences. If you believe that someone is not worthy of your truth, then make no mistake, there's going to be someone in your life who is going to believe that you're not worthy of their truth. And the cycle continues and keeps going on. To break free from this cycle, I recommend diving into the root fear that fuels lying and confronting the disharmony that it creates. Embracing truthfulness in both words and actions is essential for personal growth and inner alchemy transformation. Okay, I came from the church. I thought that I was preaching truth. I thought that that was my truth. I now understand that, especially the way that I was doing it, you constantly have to change the truth so that it matches the situation, which makes it a not truth, right? If there's a rule to the exception, then it's not a rule. If there's, one bad apple and a batch of good apples, then they're not all good apples. It doesn't matter whether you want to say it or not. That's just the truth. So the more that you work through these things, the more you can start transforming them. Okay. Compassion for the ones not telling truth. Compassion is an important aspect of understanding those who lie. While lying can cause harm, it is important to recognize that the person lying may be going through their own struggles or challenges. Remember, just because you're aware doesn't mean that they're aware. Okay. They may be lying to protect themselves or avoid difficult situations. By having a deep compassion for the person lying, we can better understand their motivations and reasons for lying. Let me make this very clear. This does not justify lying. This does not say it's okay. This does not condone it. This is adding compassion and understanding for why it happens. This can help us approach the situation with empathy and seek to understand their perspective rather than simply condemning their behavior. Practicing compassion can also help us maintain healthy boundaries and assert our own needs while still acknowledging the humanity and struggles of the person lying. Ultimately, having deep compassion for those who lie can lead to a greater understanding, healing, and growth for not only the person who is not being honest, but with yourself if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're not being honest either. Some of the hardest things for us to get through is being able to look at our own lives and forgive ourselves. So the more that you forgive others, the easier it'll be for you to forgive yourself when situations come up. Because things like lying, negativity, pride, these are all situational. They will come up at different points of your life. The more work that you have, the more tools that you have in your toolbox, the more you'll be able to deal with them in that moment. But they will come up. Just because you're spiritual does not mean that life suddenly becomes all light and love. It means you live in it and you know how to navigate through it. Okay, so questions to dive deeper into this. Am I able to see beyond the lie and understand the motivations and challenges that may have led the person to lie? And again, you're not asking the person this, you're asking yourself this. That's it. How can I practice empathy and compassion towards the person who lied while also acknowledging the harm caused by their actions? Okay, don't ignore your own feelings. Don't ignore whether or not you're hurt in these situations. Look at those situations and find a way to rise above that. What are some alternative explanations or perspectives that I can consider before making judgments about the person who lied? How can I communicate my boundaries and assert my needs while still showing understanding and empathy towards the person who lied? And I love the fact that it says boundaries, because I want to make this very clear. Boundaries are okay. Boundaries are great. I like to think of boundaries as dams. Energy is constantly flowing, constantly moving, but sometimes you need to slow down that water. It's going too fast for you. So you set up a dam, you slow the flow. The problem with boundaries is when we stop going back to them and checking them and seeing whether or not it is helping us or hurting us. The moment you made a boundary, you did it to help yourself, absolutely. But if you never go back and checking it and you create 5 of them, now you have a very slow moving energy in your life. And I can tell you from this understanding, when your energy slows down, the more slow it gets, the more stagnant it gets. The more stagnant it gets, the more biochemistries can grow within it like germs. The more germs that you have, the more dis-ease you will have. Okay, slowed energy creates disease. So the more that you go back and you look at those boundaries and dams that you set and you go, okay, I've moved past this, I'm okay with this, and you release those, the more energy you'll have flowing in your life again. Okay. What can I learn from this experience and how can I use it to grow as a person? And how can I move forward with forgiveness and compassion rather than resentment and judgment towards the person who lied? Okay, so those are great places for you to be able to do an inventory. Okay, so this moves us into control and domination. This is another area where your ego likes to hide. The concept of domination involves the desire to control. Living within a system such as a society, organization, or culture can sometimes create limitations in our ability to think and act freely. This can happen when the system is structured in a way that reinforces a certain way of thinking or behaving. As a result, we may develop character flaws that are interwoven into the system. One example of this is the idea of hierarchy, where certain individuals or groups are given more power or status than others. This can create a culture of domination where those at the top seek to control or dominate those at the bottom. And the hierarchy doesn't have to be when we're talking about government. This can be in spirituality. You see this quite often on Facebook where somebody believes that they know it all, and therefore they try to control the flow of how that information is shared. At 9vibes, one of the biggest things that I focus on is the fact you can share anything that you want. You can comment on anything you want as long as it's kind. That's it. It's my only guideline. It's kind. You can talk about the devil. You can talk about aliens. It doesn't matter as long as it's kind. As long as you don't have to put down someone else's belief for you to stand on your own. Okay, so these understandings of domination is not just these big things. There are also small things in our life. If you have ever thought to yourself, I paid for this, so they should do a better job, you may be trying to exert control of the situation based on your financial status. This tendency to try and control situations can be observed not only in government or monarchies, but also in smaller everyday activities. To overcome domination, it is necessary to challenge and remove hierarchical systems and ideas, as they often perpetuate this cycle. So again, going through the taking inventory and then changing the cycle for yourself. Okay. Another one is going to be the alpha mindset. Another factor that contributes to the domination is the alpha mindset, which is characterized by a desire for control and power. This mindset is often ego-driven and can lead to the exploration of others. By recognizing this mindset and working towards harmony and cooperation with others, we can create a more positive reality for ourselves and those around us. This means striving to understand and respect the perspectives of others and collaborating towards common goals rather than seeking to control or dominate them. All right. So the questions you can ask yourself: am I seeking to control or dominate others, or am I striving to work collaboratively and cooperatively towards a shared goal? How do my actions and behaviors impact others, and am I considering their perspectives and needs? Do I recognize and challenge hierarchical systems and ideas, or do I perpetuate them without question? How can I work towards harmony and cooperation with others, even when our perspectives may differ? Am I aware of and challenging my ego-driven desires to control or power that may be contributing to the cycle of domination? So in other words, just checking your own energy flow. Where are you at? How can I ensure that my actions and behaviors are rooted in empathy, compassion, and respect for others, rather than seeking to dominate or control them? Okay, so these are great questions that you can ask as well. All right, this is going to lead into the God complex. Okay, the God complex. A God complex refers to the moment when an individual believes that they possess a unique ability or skill that sets them apart from others. I know that everybody has seen this. I was born an empath. I was told this by some person and now I believe it. Whatever it happens to be, it is where you possess a unique ability or skill that sets you apart from others. Because when someone comes to you and says, how can I do this in my life? You have no way of telling them how to do it. You have no way of walking them how to do it because you were born that way, right? Everybody's seen that Lady Gaga song, you were born that way. So therefore, how can they do it? And that's exactly what a God complex does. It creates a separation. Okay. The more that you learn about why you can do the things that you can do in this life, the more you can teach someone the steps to do it themselves. If you are a healer, fantastic. Learn how you became a healer so you can teach other people how to also become healers. Okay. This belief can lead to a sense of superiority and entitlement, as if the person has godlike powers or knowledge that others lack. This way of thinking can be harmful, as it is the process of taking on too much energy too fast. Okay. And a great example of this is that, and I'll be explaining it down at the bottom, you're basically heating up too quickly. Okay, that's the best way of putting it. When you have a God complex, you are heating up too quickly, which causes you to burn out even faster. Interacting with energy when one is unprepared can cause the rapid acceleration of particles, which can create a significant amount of heat. Those of you who have taken my aerokinetics class, you understand that what we're talking about here, like when you breathe hot air, you speed up the particles, therefore they respond faster. Well, it's the exact same understanding. You are rapidly accelerating the particles, which can create a significant amount of heat. This can be especially challenging when one is in a state of unawareness, as it can cause one's mind to expand too quickly. Too much knowledge, too much information. You're going too fast, and therefore you'll end up burning out. It's like trying to fit a terabyte of knowledge into a container that can only hold 10 megabytes. Those of you that don't know computers, that is completely okay. Another way to think of this is if you had a 20-page book filled with 20,000 words that are all out of order. Okay, it would be impossible to read the story and make sense of it. So it's the same exact understanding. Okay, when we weave a God complex into our creation, it can unravel the experience. This is similar to pulling on a thread in a sweater. Once you start, the entire sweater starts to unravel slowly. Okay, so some of the questions you can ask yourself to see whether or not you have a God complex or where your God complex is, do I often feel like I am the only one who truly understands or possesses a certain ability or skill? Do I frequently dismiss or belittle opinions or abilities of others in particular areas simply because I believe I am superior in that aspect? Am I prone to seeking control or powers over others, either overtly or subtly, in order to reinforce my superiority or ability? Okay, again, these are personal. Just answer them for yourself. As human beings, we all have an innate desire to be accepted and to feel like we belong. So this is another area that your ego likes to hang out, and it creates what is called an acceptance trap. Okay, it is natural to want others to recognize who we are and what we stand for. However, the problem lies in the fact that the definition of who we are exists solely within ourselves. It's in your mind, it's in your experiences, it's in your walk. Nobody else truly knows what defines us, and nobody is walking in our shoes or in our paths. Even if we have the same experiences collectively, we do not have the same experiences individually. What you think in your mind, thanks to that awesome black box that's in there, is yours and yours alone. Any perception of us that others have is merely a fabrication of who we think we truly are. This is why we may reject compliments from others, such as when someone tells us that we are attractive or loved. It's easy to dismiss these compliments as false because they don't align with our own definition of who we are. Now, this can go both ways. When someone insults you, you can absolutely tap into who you truly are and be like, yeah, okay, no, I'm not, and move on. Okay, but it's usually the other way around, and it becomes a trap. Okay, ultimately, it's important to recognize that our true sense of self and acceptance comes from within. It is always going to come from within. Why? Because we're all one anyway. So it's all coming from within in this grand scheme of things. While it is natural to seek validation from others, we shouldn't let their perceptions define us. Instead, we should strive to stay true to ourselves and cultivate a sense of self-acceptance that comes from within. So the questions you can ask yourself to not get in this trap are, how much weight do I give to the opinions and judgments of others in defining who I am? Do I base my sense of self-worth on external validation, or do I cultivate self-acceptance from within? Am I able to embrace and integrate the different aspects of myself, even if they may not fit into societal or cultural norms? Okay, so these are questions you can ask yourself and go through. All right, so now we have talked about the ego. We have talked about where it's hiding. We have talked about the mind. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the earth, okay? Because it all directly comes together. The nature of our existence is rooted in separation, okay? So when you're in the journey of learning about oneness, understand you also need to understand and appreciate duality. You have to appreciate duality. My relationship with Caitlin would be very, very confusing if I saw her as myself. Okay, you need to have that separation. You need to have that awareness of separation. And that's the key in it. You need to be aware. The more aware you are of duality, the more you can live in unity. Okay, the nature of our existence, it's rooted in separation, from our physicality to relationships. The monetary systems, our biological systems, and our fear-based systems and energy-driven systems all focus on separation. To evolve beyond these limitations, we need to exceed the confines of the system. You can do this by expanding your awareness 1% more every day. Answering these questions, going through each one of these, whether you do it one day in one big shot or slowly throughout time, is going to bring awareness to you in percentages every single day. Every single day. The only way that Earth can experience itself as separate from anything else is by rejecting it. Okay, this can be demonstrated by the example of rejecting the idea of a child to be seen as a teenager. The same way I was explaining that the only way that the teenager is ever going to see themselves, not only within themselves, and also the world sees them as a teenager, is if they stop being seen as a child. It's the same exact understanding of the earth. If the earth does not see you as separate from the earth, then it sees you as one with the earth. And if it sees you as one with the earth, it can't give you anything. How can you give yourself something that you already have? So it sees yourself as separate. Okay. The Earth's counterclockwise rotation charges the environment positively. The surface of the Earth has a neutral charge. This is a scientific understanding. The surface has a neutral charge, but most things on the surface are negatively charged, while the air within the Earth is positively charged. This is due to the process called atmospheric electrical discharge, which causes electrons to flow from the negatively charged surface to the positively charged atmosphere. Okay. There are two systems at play in this. There's ether and there's energy. A lot of people who start learning about energy think that it is ether, and people who start learning about ether think it is equivalent to energy. They are two distinct things. In ancient Greece, the concept of ether was considered the fifth element. Alongside earth, air, fire, and water, it was believed to fill the universe and serve as the medium through which light traveled. In modern times, ether has been reimagined as the field of consciousness that extends beyond the physical world. This field is thought to be composed of sentient energy that is interconnected with all things, forming a universal web of awareness. Energy, on the other hand, refers to the inner workings of the universe, governed by the universal laws. It is the driving force behind everything from the celestial movements to the beating of your heart. Ether and energy are distinct yet intertwined systems that collaborate in shaping and sustaining the cosmos. Ether is the underlying field of consciousness, while energy is the animating force that propels everything into action. Together, these two systems form a bedrock of existence, encompassing both the physical and the metaphysical aspects of our reality. Okay, you have to understand how energy works to do things like aerokinetics, hydrokinetics, to do things like being able to remote view. But you have to understand how ether exists for you to also be able to do those things. Okay. Fear as an energy. So we've talked a ton about fear, but now let's talk about it as an energy. Fear doesn't exist in places outside of Earth's 3D dimension. Okay, this is one of the things that I received in and through my NDE. So fear doesn't exist outside of the 3D dimension. And I've taught a class on dimension. So if you want to look that up, you can go on YouTube. It is there, but there is a whole entire process when it comes to dimensions. Okay. And the only place that fear exists is going to be in the 3D. And the reason is because of the fact that when you are in the first dimension, you are in pure unity. Therefore, fear does not exist. And when you're in the second dimension, you don't have anything to observe fear and love. It is only the two. Therefore, it can't experience itself. Therefore, it doesn't actually exist. When you get into the third dimension is where you have an observer of the duality. Therefore, it can now define something as love or fear. Okay? Multiple existences are happening all around us with many beings, entities, and sentient energies that we will never know about due to the compression that we are in. Earth is compressed. Okay. The more compressed something is, the denser and more exclusive it becomes due to its frequency. Just like when an image or music file is compressed, it lowers its quality. But when coal is compressed with heat, it makes it into a diamond, which makes it into a very unique frequency. Earth is a very unique frequency. Okay. When a file, such as a photo or music file, is compressed, it can result in a loss of quality. This is because compression removes certain data from the file in order to reduce its size. As a result, the compressed file may not have the same level of detail or clarity as the original uncompressed version. This is similar to how fear can compress our reality, limiting our ability to experience and perceive the world around us in its fullness. Fear compresses you. So the more compressed that you are, the more fear you have in your life, the less you get to see. That is why if you guys have seen that image that says you only actually hear, taste, see, touch, and smell 10%, or see on a scale the 10%, and the rest is all around you, is because fear keeps you in that 10%. The more fear that you work through and you release, the more you'll be able to see. Okay. The less fear that you have in your body, the more this reality you can actually perceive. The more you release fear from your body and mind, the more of the reality around you can perceive. And if you think about it logically, you'll see that what you can't see, taste, touch, smell, hear is not negative, but actually positive. This is because the true spiritual realm, which is beyond our physical senses, doesn't hold any negativity at all. Okay. When you hear stories of things that are negative, it's because the person who told the story was coming from a dualistic perspective. Okay. When you have your own personal experience, it's because you're still struggling with your own duality. You're trying to figure out the light by also appreciating the darkness or perceiving the darkness. Okay. That has nothing to do with actual reality. The more that you actually release the fears in your life, the more you move into positivity. The more you're able to start to see these things that are all around you at all times, helping you, guiding you, and pushing you in different directions. It's important to remember that anything in the spiritual realm that can't hurt you doesn't want to hurt you. And the reason that it says can't hurt you is because if it's spiritual, it's just going to fly right through you. It's not physically hurting you in any way, shape, or form. If it smacked you, it's going right through your face. There's no actual physical pain. Therefore, if it can't hurt you, it doesn't want to hurt you. It's not going to waste its energy. This means that you can approach the spiritual realm with a sense of curiosity and openness without fearing any negative consequences. But the moment that you add one, now you can actually experience that. Okay. By letting go of the fear and embracing positivity, you can expand your awareness and connect with spiritual realms in a deeper way. When exploring the spiritual realms, it's important to approach it without fear. When we come at it from a state of fear, we can end up manifesting our own fears into that reality. And then what we do is we believe that that is reality, when in reality it is not. That's a lot of reality talk, but that's the understanding, is that we're the ones that are creating it, and then we're selling it as though it's universal. It is not universal. This is why some people may see, hear, touch, smell, or taste things that aren't seen by others. This is also why hauntings are often individual experiences. Okay? Naming your fears can be powerful because it brings attention to them, allowing you to recognize them as thoughts that you have created. So naming is very, very important, whether you're talking about the Egyptian Book of Dead that has the names for the gods, whether you're talking about the Bible that has the names for the characters, or your own personal name. When you're standing in a room with 50 people and someone yells, "You're not your name," you're not paying attention in any way, shape, or form. But the second you hear your name, you bring awareness to that situation. That is no different than your fears. The more that you actually know your fears and name them and are able to label them, the more you are able to then understand them and work through them. With this awareness, you can then uncreate them by replacing them with new thoughts. So remember to approach the spiritual realm with love and positivity, and don't let fear hold you back from experiencing its wonders. Okay, that is the understanding I want you to take from that. Now, we are going to finish here by me giving you a metaphor as to why we went through everything that we went through. And it's called the cup. Okay, this is the cup metaphor. If you just learned that you have chakras, I'm going to be the first one to tell you they're blocked. If you just learned that you have energy and ego, I'm going to be the first one to tell you that you have slow energy. Okay, if you just learned about these things, it means that it's been running on autopilot in your life. And therefore, you have slower energy than what you can actually be at. Your cup has dirty water in it. Now, that does not mean negative. Okay, that means that you have been running the same exact way for a very long time and not having clarity. So if you take a cup that is full of dirty water, again, we're not saying dirty is bad. We're just saying it's not clear. If you take a cup of dirty water, this water is your ego. Okay, best I could do on this was to kind of show this. Okay, it isn't bad or evil. It's just that you have been making decisions for your life at a lower vibration for a very long time. And that caused your water to get less clear. You're not clear why things are happening in your life. And I love the quote from the Matrix that says, you're not here to make choices. You're here to understand why you made them. You need clarity in your life. Hint, hint, for those of you that are on a certain journey. It isn't bad or evil. It's just that you have been making decisions in your life at a low vibration for a long time that causes your water to get less clear. Next, place that cup under a free-flowing flow of fresh water. This flow represents universal knowledge. In other words, data is everywhere around you. You can't see data and you can see data. You can read it in a book, or you can start working with the energy that's around you and manifest it and see it, with your own eyes. But this flow represents universal knowledge. It is love, compassion, kindness, and truth. This water is crystal clear and comes from a source that never stops giving. The more you tap into this source, Nikola Tesla said it himself when he said that he understood that everything has an answer and it's all held in a source. He just didn't know how to tap into that source. The more you learn to tap into that source by using kindness, compassion, love, and truth, the more that water is going to continuously flow. And as long as that water continuously flows into your cup, you don't have to do anything, okay? You do not have to do anything, because what will happen is the water that was dirty at the bottom, the dirt that was at the bottom of this cup is going to slowly rise up to the top. It is going to filter itself out, okay? So if you start adding water into your cup, the dirty water begins to overflow out of the cup. It continues spilling out until the water that is coming in completely replaces the dirty, cloudy water that was in the cup. This is more universal knowledge. There is more universal knowledge in this life than there is ego within you. There is more universal knowledge in this life than there is ego within you. That means that you can pick any path that you want to, any book, any story that you've read, any religion, anything that you want to, and pull the parts that are universal knowledge for you, that you've applied to your life, that have given you success. Pull those parts and keep that water flowing. There is more universal knowledge than there is ego within you. Most people don't take the time to transform their water. By answering the questions asked in this training and working through your own energy, you will shift your water into crystal clear drinking water. And then as a joke, you can charge it. Okay. This is inner alchemy. This is where you find your ego, and then you understand your ego, and then you change it to give it what it actually wants. It wants to be unique. That's fine. Find a way to give it uniqueness that works for your life. Change your pride into appreciation. Celebrate the little moments. When you're on your spiritual journey, take moments and celebrate them. Buy yourself a slice of cake whenever you notice that you're more kind in a day. Align yourself to a 3, 6, and 9 so that on days 3, you give more. On 6 days, you're more kind. And on 9s, you're just elevating to your highest level. Whatever it is for your path, find it and keep doing it, because what it's going to do is it's going to fill your cup. You do not have to dive to the bottom of your cup to clear out the dirt. You do not have to do that anymore. We're not at that place. We understand that as long as you keep putting in water, it's going to filter itself out. And the more that it filters out, the more your life becomes a living flow. All right. Okay. That was the end of the training. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to actually do, because of the fact that we have 19 people, which is awesome, is I'm going to go through and I'm going to say your name and I'm going to ask if you have any questions, comments, or observations. If you do, you can go ahead and take yourself off mute. You can go ahead and ask your question, comment, or observation. If you don't, no problem. It'll be about 9 seconds of silence, and then I will move on to the next person. This allows everybody. If you don't want to actually say anything and you want to type it in chat, that's completely fine too. I'll ask Caitlin if there are any questions that I missed, because during training, I can't look at the 3 different monitors that I have.
I actually have 2 questions in chat for you right now, if you want to start with those. Okay, sure. So this one says, in terms of paying for something, what should you do if you feel you don't receive value for what you paid for? One example is that my child's junior school didn't teach him the second language of our country, but charged me a lot to educate him. Now in his high school, they offer the sport of soccer, but only if you make the A team. Their solution to this was to go to another school.
Okay, so that one is a little bit tricky in the fact that that's a lot of parts on the chessboard that would have to be moved around to make that work easily for you. One of the best things that I can say first is to appreciate what your child has in the first place, right? Because there are many people out there who don't even have access to the schooling or have access to sports. So start from a state of appreciation. And then what you want to do is you want to ask this question out loud in your own life. How can I handle this better? Right? Ask your own guide or your own spiritual enlightenment or your higher self how you can respond to this, because it's going to be different for every single person. If I was in your situation, I'd start with appreciation, and then I would figure out the language that I want to teach my kid and see if there's any other way that they can learn outside of that school. And if the sports are reliant on the grades, then we're focusing on the grades if that's the passion that the kid actually wants to be in. So it would be different for each individual. So start from appreciation, and that's going to open and remove that resistance for you to receive the answer you're looking for. All right.
The next second one is, what is Devin's take on how to deal with people who seek to undermine and abuse you? Is there always something within the person attracting that situation, like low self-esteem or guilt? Can it be resolved by sending the abuser love to transform the situation?
That is an epic question. I don't know who this Devin guy is. So yes, absolutely. There are things you can do. Number one, and I will always make this clear, always make sure that you are physically safe. Always make sure you're physically safe. You need to get out of a situation, then you can get out of a situation. That is completely okay. And that does not mean that that is you being less, even though in spirituality, it says we're all one and you need to understand them. You can't understand someone if they're hurting you. Okay. You can't do it. You got to separate yourself from the situation. The next thing that you can do is, number one, find out why it is you got in that situation in the first place. Okay. Abusive relationships do not start abusive. If you went on a first date and the person knocked you out, I guarantee you're not going on a second date. Okay. So it's very important to notice your own behaviors and your own energy to see how you kept allowing things to escalate. Now, this does not condone violence in any way, shape, or form, but this is, if you can't fix them, you got to look at yourself and find out what ended up happening in this situation. Then, to answer your question, you absolutely can wake up every morning and send that vibration out. I hope this person gets the clarity that they're looking for. I hope their higher self reaches them. Because I'll be first to tell you that prior to my spiritual journey, I was not what you would consider a very good person. I was not a violent person in any way, shape, or form, but I was a highly intelligent person that could use sarcasm to insult people. And I'm not happy when I look back at that. I'm like, that was not a kind thing to do. So for the person that's in that situation, number one, make sure that you're safe. Number two, use it as a mirror. Reflect back and find out the area that things actually changed for you so you don't end up doing it again. Because it never starts at the 9th level of worse. It always starts at like a 2 or 3, and we keep excusing it and allowing it. And then it ends up in a situation where it's out of our hands. And then finally, once you're at a place that you can send a positive vibration, you can send a message to the universe, hoping that person finds their way, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, again, if I mess up your name, I apologize. But if you have a question, comment, or observation, just go ahead and take yourself off mute. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the top. Obviously, Caitlin, questions, comments, or observations. Awesome. Pat, questions, comments, or observations. All righty. Claudie, questions, comments, or observations. And I always wait about 9 seconds. Okay. Says Costi. Questions, comments, or observations? Okay. Jen, questions, comments, or observations? Okay, Sheila, no problem. I will get to yours right as I go through these. All right. Jess, questions, comments, or observations?
If what about like somebody who has a mental illness and they have like a dissociation disorder, or they really don't remember a situation, but the people around them are always trying to tell them that they're lying or try to manipulate the situation to benefit them. What would you say to someone like that?
So that's a dual question, because the first one is, of course, the separation in, let's say, like DID, dissociative identity disorder, bipolar. The separations are more extreme. And that's why we consider them mental illness, is because we're literally saying that it's more extreme than what the average, is experiencing. So I believe, from everything I've experienced and people that I've worked with, that there is no mental illness that stops you or your higher self from reaching you. There is no mental illness that stops the universe from reaching you. So the more that you focus on what you believe your reality is, and you keep adjusting that to kind of tweak to find a foundation that is your personal vibration, you won't be affected by the people that are outside that situation. If it's something you absolutely cannot remember, understand that actually we only remember 18% of 80% of our whole collective memory. 18%, that's it. So maybe it's not a memory at this time that either A, you should remember, it's not going to benefit you right now, or B, at all, may not benefit you at all in this. And so people from the outside, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, I remember this situation, it affected me, you need to remember it. But that's not the truth. You may not have to. And so the more that you work on yourself and the more that you work through your energy, the more clarity you'll have on those type of situations.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Great question. Did you have any other questions, comments, or observations?
No, I'm good.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Okay. Joshua, questions, comments, or observations? Okay. All right. Martin, questions, comments, or observations?
Hi, Devon. Just a quick question, really. My lad plays a lot of football, or soccer, as you call it in the US. In regards to negativity with children, I know two of my friends' kids in different teams. They are at a young age very negative in their mind, and like, to be honest, I'd like to try and help them, like, sort of like try and solve it. How would you think? How how's the best way to solve the negativity in a child? I mean, when I say negativity, they're great players. But
Right.
anything they do wrong, they really like beat themselves up about.
Yeah, so I actually went through this myself. I used to be very judgmental when it came to any other quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. And so the first thing that I had to do is what I did is I learned about the other characters. I learned about Pat's quarterback there. And I learned about just positive things that he's done. He's actually, there are different quarterbacks who have given like most to charity and things like that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of get rid of the illusion that I created, because the reality is all teams are doing the best they can, and there are some really, really good people that are involved in sports. That's the first thing that I did. I had to expand my awareness. Now, when you're talking about two people that are kind of unaware, that are very much into a competitive environment, it's a little bit more tricky because it would take a level of awareness to be able to change that behavior. But to start, you could literally just start with something of a challenge, offering something along the lines of some type of incentive, buying dinner if you don't end up, using your negativity against each other during a game. You can absolutely cheer on your team. You can, be excited for all the plays without having to denounce or insult the other side. So the more times that happens, the more you just reward. It's kind of like the understanding of training a dog. Once they do the behavior you want, you give them the reward, you'll end up starting to create those patterns within them.
Yeah, that's great. I'm more talking about in regards to negativity, not against other people, but the negative towards themselves. Like I say, they're great players, but they'll do like 95% things good, and then the 5% of things that do bad, and they sort of dwell on just the bad parts. Where realistically, they should obviously see that obviously everybody's going to make mistakes, and it's a bit of a glass half full or half empty. They only see the negative in anything they do, so it's not that the negative towards others.
Are you talking about like how they're perceived in the media kind of thing?
No, it's young lads. Young lads, how they perceive themselves. So they're playing on my lads' team, and they'll have a great game, and then they'll come off disappointed within themselves because they don't think they've done enough, and they have obviously done enough. They're very good players, but it's just they're coming off with a negative thought in their head about their own performance, in essence.
Gotcha. How to smooth out the internal negative talk.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so there are many things that you can do that help smooth out the internal negative talk. Number one is to be aware of it, right? Whenever you're not aware of negative talk, it's like on autopilot. It's just constantly going all the time. When I had social anxiety and I had it horribly, I didn't realize how often I was telling myself things like, don't do that, they're doing better than you, they're going to judge you, those kind of things. So you're not even aware that it's happening. So the first thing that I would do is bring awareness to the difference between that 5% or that 10% versus when they're doing well. So if they're doing well, great, they're in the zone. If for whatever reason they start, tearing themselves down or insulting themselves, that's the moment that you want to teach them, because that's what it's going to come down to, is you actually teaching them, okay, when you notice this shift within you, start asking yourself this question: why did I change that way? Why did I start tearing myself down? Is this helping me in any way? Or is there another way that I can motivate myself, not using negativity, to do better? Because make no mistake, what they're saying to themselves ultimately is they can do better. Everyone can do better. I can do better on this whole entire training if I wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a question on whether or not I insult myself to use that as motivation to do better. So I would start with, since you are the adult and you are the more aware one in this situation, is to start helping them notice that shift and then asking themselves their own personal questions.
That's good. Thank you.
Does that help?
I have something to add to that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because that was me. As a kid in soccer, I was always it has to be perfect. I have to be the fastest one and kick the farthest and all of those things. And then if I didn't, I got really upset. And my mom used to do this thing where every time I did something that I felt was wrong, she'd pinpoint all of these things that I did that was right. So I might have missed the goal, but I kicked with the right side of my foot. I might have not have been as fast, but I was able to get the ball out of this situation. So you pull the positive out of what these kids considered to be like the negative situations, or where they didn't do as well. And they start associating even those negative situations with places of improvement. So they add the positivity into, okay, well, I didn't do as great, but at least I did this right. And okay, I didn't do this, but at least I got better. So it gives them something to almost look forward to every game.
I like that a lot. That's awesome.
Thank you. I mean, that obviously makes a lot of sense. Obviously, at the moment, like I say, they're concentrating on just the negative, but they realise all the positives they do, then obviously it'll outweigh the negative.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Did you have any other questions, comments, or observations?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Cheers.
All right, no problem. All right, so I see here it says Motorola Moto G Style 5G. So I don't know who that is, but if it's you, do you have any questions, comments, or observations? Okay. No problem. All right, Naj, questions, comments, or observations? All righty, Patty, questions, comments, or observations?
You know I'm gonna have some.
I knew you would.
No, I love this, Devin. This was so perfect. And I can kind of see it's like comparing the ego and the soul. It's like the soul is the spirit expression that already knows it's one creator and everything is in unity. And it's just the ego that's in the negative polarity, that's in separation and wants to be special and all of that. So when we recognize and reconcile that into the positive, now we can be here as the creator, playing in harmony and not judging anyone or, just seeing everything in the light, but still playing my character that is separate. Right. Fun, but no, there is no separation. Yes. And it's funny when Jess was talking about the mental illness or whatever, I was thinking about my mother and how, you know how it says Jesus can't go home or whatever, and people see him as normal because they remember him as the kid. And they're going to have that memory of him when he has expanded into the Christ and he knows he's one with God as source. Right. But they're never going to see him as that. And that's what I think is happening when I come with my mother. She is seeing me as her child and she wants to put me in that box. And I am so out of that box, but I just have to allow her, not make it wrong or whatever. Okay, you see me as that. I don't, whatever, project on me. I'm okay with it, but that's not who I am.
Right.
And just roll the flow and be in harmony. But yeah, so this was really a wonderful presentation. And it's funny when you were talking about the God complex, because I remember in my younger days when I was still identified as the Patty character, I was totally in that. I was comparing myself and wanting to excel and, be the best, but not putting other people down, but just comparing and then trying to go higher, but I could see that. And it was trying to stand out and be special. And now I realize, hell, we're all the same one. now I don't do that. Now I just, where am I at? And let me go higher from where I was yesterday, So Thank you. This is absolutely brilliant. I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. No problem. Thank you so much. All right, Sean, questions, comments, or observations? All righty. And Sheila, you had a question. Caitlin, can you go ahead and read that?
Yes, that says, scroll back up there. Okay. My mom and I recently bought a house and I moved to my hometown to take care of her. We were just scammed out of $5,000 from a roofer. Now we have a leaking roof and no money. She's blaming me. I feel like a piece of crap. How can I figure out why this happened?
Yeah, that's definitely tough. So first off, I'm sorry that happened. In this type of situation, the best thing that you can do is apply the compassion, the understanding that your mom is probably scared. It is an intense situation, and so it's not about you. It's one of my favorite quotes from Doctor Strange whenever he's talking to the lead monk, and she's just like, fear and ignorance has left you not understanding the most important lesson of all, which is that it's not about you. Their fear, their upsetness, their reactions, which is exactly what that is. It's a react, as in doing something again, a response, as in doing something again. She went into her mode of reaction, which is fear. So the first thing you want to do is shake it off. And I know that's a very Taylor Swift kind of thing, but to let it go, very much so, in the fact that it's not about you. Because once you let that resistance go, then I believe that you and your mom together can kind of figure out the next steps that you have to do. Because even though we're frustrated with things that happen in life, we still have to figure out the next step. And usually a lot of times what happens is we get upset, frustrated with either each other or ourselves, and therefore there's no clarity for the next step. So even though $5,000 was lost in this situation, $5,000 can be right behind a door that is about to be given to you. But as long as you have resistance you're not going to be able to see that door to open it. So it's really important that you want to remove that resistance, that negativity first and foremost, so that you then can decide the next step that you're going to do. Does that help answer your question? Awesome. And then also the Power of the 1% book that I did is a great starting point for manifestation and being able to accept what is coming your way. Because every single person in this world, when you start changing your charge, you start becoming magnetized. When you start becoming magnetized, money and value are things that are attracted to you. So it is only our negativity that blocks it. So get ready for that. And that's a great book to start with. All right, Teresa, any questions, comments, or observations? Awesome. Okay, all right. So thank you everybody for joining. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out so that I can upload this to a YouTube channel.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Excuse me, you didn't say my name to questions.
Sorry about that. It only shows its iPhone on my thing. I apologize. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have questions. I have few questions if I would.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So the first question is the listening to the affirmations works?
Does listening to affirmations work?
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to say yes and no. So the reason I'm going to say yes and no is because you actually need to speak affirmations to add vibration to affirmations for them to actually work. Because if you're just listening to them, you're bringing them in, not radiating them out.
Okay. The second question is, what do you think about prayer?
Prayer. So prayer is a fantastic tool, as well as meditation, as well as any other way that you're trying to tap into something that's external yourself. The only reason that prayer does not work is because if you go into prayer seeking something, in other words, asking for something, then basically you are admitting in that moment that you don't have it. And if you admit in that moment you don't have it, then the universe is not going to be able to see that you want it. Like it's kind of the understanding of, as long as you're asking for something, you're admitting that it's not possible to have it. When in reality, what you want to do in prayer is you want to have affirmations. You want to actually say things like, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I know these things are coming. Because then you're not begging God for anything, you're establishing a relationship.
Okay, and my last question is, what do you think about the gospel of Jesus Christ?
I love Jesus. I mean, like, I never met Jesus, so I can't say that I can say 100% that Jesus existed, but the stories are profound, and the understanding of being able to be a human and transform into this character that is compassion, love, kindness, healing, devotion, and trust is a powerful message.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's all. Thank you.
We have one more question in the chat.
Yes.
Sean would like to know if you can please expand more on manifesting wealth/money.
Yeah, absolutely. So without a question, I'm gonna kind of spitball with this one. So when it comes to manifesting wealth and money, the first thing you want to understand is that everything is energy. Everything is energy. The money that you're trying to attract is energy. The wealth you're trying to attract is energy. The things that you want from said money and wealth is energy. One of the best things you can do if you want to attract money and wealth into your life is stop asking for things you don't believe that you can have. Stop wasting your energy asking for $1 million. And it's not because you can't have it. You absolutely can have $1 million. It's because of the fact that if you can't manage $1,000, the universe is not going to give you $1 million. It's not going to make things harder in your life. So when it comes to manifesting wealth and money, what I tell people to do is to ask for 1% more every single day, is to write affirmations that focus on 1% more every single day. Because what will end up happening is you'll start to notice the flow. You'll start to be comfortable in the flow, and then you'll want to increase it more, and you'll want to increase it more. And there's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you're in a state of awareness. But it's when we spend all of our energy asking for that $1 million or that $10 million or even 100,000, the universe will never give you something that is going to cause more issues in your life unless it is a chaos situation. In other words, you win the lottery because you went down there and it happened. And make no mistake, my sister's family, my sister's husband's family won the lottery twice. and it was the worst thing that ever happened to them. The worst thing that has ever happened to them. So it is really important that, one, you are aware, and two, you are aware of what you're actually asking for. I work with people all week long in individual one-on-one sessions, and the biggest thing that I notice is that people don't want $1 million. They want the security that comes with $1 million. People don't want things in mass drops of money or value. They want the little bit that changes their life where they are. They want that car they didn't think that they could afford, you know, not the Lamborghini that's down the street, right? They want the things that increase their life just a little bit. And so if you ask for an increase in your life just a little bit, you will receive an increase in your life just a little bit. And if you keep asking, it can keep growing. Does that answer your question, Sean?
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. No problem. Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to go ahead and upload this. Again, you guys are going to get an email. If I have your email, if I don't have your email, go over to Facebook, go to that link that I posted. Make sure you put your email in that form so that I have it. Those of you who have golden tickets, you know that you already have that. But you will receive the PDF and you will receive the YouTube so that you guys can watch this at any point in time and also study at any point in time. The only other thing I ask is there's going to be a survey that is going to be in that email. If you could just go ahead and take a moment just so that I can know how I can readjust and make this a better experience for people. All right. Thank you so much for coming, and you guys have a fantastic day. Awesome. Bye.